Wow, the show keeps getting better and better. I got Suzanne with me and a special guest. All of us are going to regret. What do you think about that?
I think it's a total regretful moment today.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the one and only No Vacancy podcast. I'm Glenn Hausman. That's Suzanne Bagnara. Anthony Melchiori is on assignment for the last day. We promise he will be back tomorrow. Suzanne, it's so great to see you here today on April 26, 2022. What is this, episode
624?
Ooh. I love it. So it is so great to see you back with me. We had so much fun yesterday, right?
We did. It was a great show. I'm excited to be here for today.
Yeah, I am too. You know, we had a great time talking to Caesar over at IHG, talking about revenue and stuff like that. And one of the things is, I just felt like we didn't get the complete picture. I said, you know, maybe we need to go ahead and talk to a real deal general manager in New York City.
Wait, I'm going to pause you right there. Did you say real deal?
Yeah, well, then when I couldn't find one, I got producer Dave.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure you clarified.
I was going to say, you're really hyping up somebody to really disappoint the group, the viewers out there, because I am not the real deal at all. But Craig Sullivan, you look very different today. You did something different with your hair? You know, this is a very... wrong show. Sorry.
Yeah, we could hold on. We could fix that if we needed to. We could definitely do an audit, but we are not going to. We're going to sit here with the No Vacancy Live format. Although we might have a little bit more fun than usual, because when the adults are not here, us kids get to play. Isn't that right, guys?
Absolutely. But again, you know, I really appreciate the great warm introduction. I just want to know who you really were talking about.
No, seriously. I know some really great GMs, but they all canceled last minute. But interestingly enough, it's really fun. We did have a guest scheduled for today. So if you guys saw anything about a design person being here, there was a conflict. That individual couldn't make it. Fortunately, Dave's entire family is sick with the croup or something like that. So he's
I like how you say fortunately. It works in our benefit, right?
I was able to jump in on the last minute because, you know, the entire family is laid up in bed right now, completely sick. So, you know, worked out for everybody.
Yeah, reminds me. I saw a meme out there talking about weekends and something like that. It's like you need like a 3-day weekend, and the last one is to get into bed and convalesce like you're in old time Europe or something.
The weekend from the weekend. But Mike, I will say I'm not sick. I'm actually feeling pretty good right now. Give me a couple days though. Once they get through their sickness, it'll probably be my turn.
Yep.
But today was my day to take care of the family. So I was at the pediatrician about an hour ago. We got some medications. I'm taking the wife to urgent care a little bit later when she's feeling up to it. So
well, I guess it's not so urgent care if you had time to do the show first. Right?
Well, this is always a first priority.
Yeah, right. All right, Dylan's got a question for you, Dave. I think that'll get us started off real nice. How's the new position started off for you, man?
It's been great. You know, I've been very fortunate to get into this position with a great organization in IHG and a great ownership at that. Absolutely, Mike. My ownership group has really been great to me and allowed me to kind of hit these ropes and learn on the fly and things like that. But obviously, things always get better, right? The old phrase, rising tides raise all boats, whatever it is. Suzanne probably can help me out with that one. But you know, the market's come back. You guys, I'm sure, were talking to Caesar yesterday about how the whole country's coming back strong. So New York City is no different. So it's really been making things look good.
That's awesome. So we're going to get back into that conversation. But before we do, I just want to send a big congratulations to all of the big winners for the 2022 Star Award highlights. There are, the 323 5-star hotels around the world and 558 4-star hotels around the world for the Forbes Travel Guide. Do you guys think that's the right amount, or does that seem more or less than you think there should be when there's 47,000 hotels alone here in the United States, or whatever that number is?
Listen, it takes a lot to get to that upper, penthouse level of luxury, and not everybody can check every single box in the requirements for standards with Forbes. So that's okay.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing though. Like, I would have thought there would have been more of them, considering the flood of press releases I get this day every year, because they all put out their press releases basically at the same time. But to think it's only 300 and change that are out there. That's pretty impressive. And I think goes right to your point, Suzanne, about how difficult it is to achieve such vaunted status. So an even bigger congratulations to the winners out there. If you guys are looking at the list, I think you got. Do you have the list in front of you, Dave? Because there's so many great hotels on there.
I'm
one in
producing today too. Oh, sorry.
No, just for your own record. But I've got a couple of pages we can.
Yeah, go for it. Why don't you mention some of the ones that you think are well worth the reward?
Well, I have one that Suzanne was talking about, so I'm going to give credit to her for letting me know about this. But Encore, right? Didn't you say Encore?
I did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So Encore in Boston is a great hotel. I was up there in March. Beautiful, beautiful facility. I haven't stayed there yet, but I've been around other parts of the facility. It's just absolutely gorgeous and right outside Boston. It's really easy to get to from downtown Boston. And
you got over there when you were up for the that meeting a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and in March for the ISG conference, I went over on one of the night times. It was a 10-minute Uber ride from South Street change station to the resort. It was 10 minutes, and it's just a great place to be, and it's local to the East Coast. It's one of the few, outside of Atlantic City, one of the few Vegas level properties that you can find out here.
Yeah, I'm still dying to go check that one out. Suzanne, before you moved to sunny old Florida, did you have a chance
I did not check that one out, ironically. And it's weird because the vice president or the president, when they were there, they came to my classes at Boston University and we talked about this property. And their goal going into construction was that they wanted to be a 5-star hotel. And I think and I didn't go to all of the details, but the component was because the casino is with the hotel. Would they achieve that? So congratulations to them. And ironically, believe it or not, my son, when he was 6 years old, he went to the casino to go check it out with his dad, not me. So,
great.
Well,
I hear your kid is a shark at craps or something like that. It's pretty impressive. I can see him right there rolling the dice going, heart 8, baby, heart 8.
No, now he takes the big ones and rolls them on the floor. Look, count those numbers.
I hate being the shooter, so if he wants to come roll for me, he can get any day of the week. He's more than welcome to.
There's a lot of pressure with being the shooter, but it's also so much fun if you're hitting those numbers and you get to keep rolling for a while. And then and the whole table starts cheering for you and stuff like that. Typically, though, I get up there, roll the dice, get a 3 or a 2, so you lose the bet, but on the initial roll, then I get my number, which is usually an 8, and then I'll roll the 7. So it usually doesn't work out too well for me over there. What are you going to do?
I'll stay hanging out gambling with Anthony whenever we go on our trips. You can just stay on the side.
Much better choice. So anything else that you guys want to say about the Forbes winners and stuff?
Well, I was going to say another one, and this was, I don't want to say controversial in the city, but there was already a 4 Seasons in Boston. And so this was one Dalton. And so again, another opportunity for recruiting in the city and having 2 4 Seasons locations in the city. So it's great to have seen that this made the list as well.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Let's see if there are any other highlights over here. The Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas got a recommended mention on there. I think that's pretty cool. Ooh, the Palm Beach Resort and Spa got 5 stars. I'm looking forward to attending the My Place annual convention there at the very end of August, beginning of September. Ooh, El Conquistador Tucson got a recommended on there. A lot of great properties, tons of Fairmont properties, either 4 or 5 stars. Same with 4 Seasons. Really, really shows how those particular brands are very, very focused on great customer experiences.
I'm going to toss another one in there because I've had students that have been interns down here, Chatham Inn, and it's great to see that an inn is on the list of a 5-star property. Again, that's not common that you see that, so it's another great opportunity.
Oh, JW Marriott Park Vancouver made it. We had the managing director of that casino resort on before. That's pretty cool. All right, Dave, I think it's time to talk to you about your job and stuff like that. And Mike McManus has got a question for you. Congratulations on your upward climb, Dave. What's been the biggest adjustment you've had to make in your new position? Because that's really a big change for you. I mean, you came in there as revenue manager in March of 2021, very quickly out-survived everybody else, got yourself promoted through your sheer
last man standing type of thing.
right. But you earned it, you definitely earned it, and you deserve to have that job. But it's still a huge adjustment, particularly since you probably didn't think you were going to be running general manager of a hotel a year after you got a job as revenue manager. What was that whole process like? And then what was the biggest adjustment you had to make, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Thank you, Mike, for the compliments. But I mean, honestly, I took over the position, unofficially back in August. So I was really there for 5 months-ish, call it. I would say the biggest adjustment, honestly, is kind of twofold, but it ties together. Is A, overseeing so many different things versus being so focused on an individual department, right? So when I was in front office, I was focused just on the front office. When I was in revenue management, I was on all the major details of revenue management. Now I have to know kind of everything about, I know a little bit about everything. And the second part of that kind of ties in is also stepping back and not getting too involved in everything and letting my people, do what we have them on board to do. And, because I'm so used to knowing and being involved in every little detail of my individual department. So it kind of comes together. That's really been the biggest adjustment, is just A, getting more involved in everything, but B, also stepping back from everything at the same time.
Dave, in that transition that you had where you were also serving as the acting GM, were you also still covering the role of revenue manager at the same time?
Yes.
So that's where that transition now becomes, because you've hired another revenue manager, right?
So we partnered with IHG. We have the IHG revenue support right now.
Gotcha.
And they're
so
awesome.
You hired Caesar to do your job. What's it? I wonder what it's like working.
Yeah, well, Caesar was originally my boss's boss's boss. Now I get to call him and say, Caesar, what are we doing over here?
Yeah, very unhappy client, Caesar.
But no, I mean, we are, we have a really great team with that. And so it's really just kind of staying with communication with them and just talking to them. Hey, here's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Here's what our expectations are. And we have calls. We have 2 official calls a week. But as they will tell you, if they were here, we probably talk about 20, 30 times a day, every day, including weekends. So, it's a lot of adjustment. Because again, listen, New York City, like any major city, but New York City is very dynamic. Things change so fast. And now that demand is coming back, and it's coming back so fast, you really have to be on top of things, or you can miss out.
So yeah, go ahead.
Mike's got a great question.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Mike's actually the real co-host of the show today. So thank you. My brain is not working great, so it's nice to be able to have you run the show for us, Mike.
Appreciate you, Mike.
Yeah, so Suzanne, you want to ask?
So what advice would you, Dave, give to a newbie in the industry that would like to have a career like you?
Take on every challenge that you can.
Yep. Don't
say no to anything. The reason that I've been in the industry for a little under 10 years. So during that time, I just put in a lot of work. My first hotel, on my days off, I would go and train at a sister property about how to do the operations management stuff. And then when that position opened up, I was able to jump into that role. When I was moving into revenue management, I was still working in front office management with Marriott, and I would go to the weekly meetings and just sit there and listen. I would go to work 5 hours early and just sit there and listen, and then go home and come back. Or I would do a lot of reading at home, or I would do the online training modules that the big brands offer.
Or do you force your way into industry podcast and learn everything from that way?
Well, that too. I just kind of elbow my way in to meet people. But seriously, that's also part of it, right? Networking, totally. Right? Develop your network.
And I would just say, from my own experience as well, just to add to that, in order for you, Dave, to do that, you also need to have a supportive partner so that you can do those extra hours if that's what your goal is. And I think that's a hidden piece in the back. And maybe some young folks that are truly newbies may not have that, but that might be a skill set that you're looking for with a partner that they're going to understand. I think, as my husband, who was a chief engineer, would say, he was married to the hotel before he was me. So you've got to have that understanding of the industry.
No, 100%. And, and listen, my career has been very fortunate, and I've been very fortunate to have people help me along the way. Right. That's another part of it. Right. My GM in my first hotel, she was very invested in growing me. Same thing with the second hotel, same thing with the third hotel, same thing with my revenue colleagues. I've been very fortunate to get with the right people that were very vested in seeing me be successful, and that certainly helped along the way. But yeah, my wife has been unbelievably supportive in that and allowed me to do that. And I always tell her, we have the life we have now, not because of the work that I did, even though I quote unquote am the breadwinner, but it's the work that we did. She sacrificed and took care of the kids while I was doing these things. So we absolutely equally share in the success, even though the quote unquote money isn't the same.
Right. And now you've got a great clip to play back to her over and over and over again.
And over and over and over again. And yes, and of course, punch. Now, Mike had another question. I'm going to bring that up real quick. This isn't even close. The bigger challenge is 100% Glenn and Anthony. They are much more demanding and they pay a lot less. So 100% Glenn and Anthony.
I might echo that one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. So Dave, it's interesting to watch as you do that. What do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned so far in this journey as you've become a GM over the last few weeks?
Biggest lesson. It all goes back again to, as crazy as it sounds, and I know Anthony talks about this a lot, he's not wrong. If you have the right people in the hotel, understanding that GM is probably going to be the least important person in each department.
Right.
It's being able to step back and allow things to happen. And then of course you want to steer the ship, right? And you want to lead the charge and you want to have the hotel running in your vision. If a certain area is starting to get out of place, of course, figuring out how to get it back into place.
Right. But what you're really talking about now is you have to move from the mindset of doing yourself to inspiring others to achieve. Right?
Yeah. I mean, my number one responsibility right now, in truth, and some hoteliers probably will cringe at this, is not to my guests.
Right.
It's to my team and it's to my employees. And 100% I believe that. And as long as I'm taking care of them as best I can, I know they'll take care of the guests as best as they can.
Nice. Suzanne?
That's what it's about. I mean, that's what Anthony has been echoing. The focus is truly on the employees as your internal guests, because if you are really taking care of them, they'll be okay. So really and maybe what you could talk about is what are some of the things that you're trying to do to keep them invested? How are you mentoring the next person? How are you keeping them there so that you're not still the last man standing and everybody leaves underneath you?
No, and that's a good point too. And honestly, we just hired somebody as a manager who had a choice between us and another property, and the other property would, in terms of apples to apples, would be considered more luxurious, probably would be considered more pristine of a title, all that good stuff. But she ended up coming to us simply because somebody else she knows works with us, and she had told her how much training we've been doing, and I've been trying to input that knowledge to everybody that I can. And she chose us simply because she wants to come and learn from not just myself, but again, director of finance, director of revenue, director of sales. And we're developing a culture at my hotel to get people in that mindset of, you're not just going to come here and do your job if you don't want to. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Like, that's no problem. But if you want to come here to grow and learn, you will have that opportunity. I think that's as important as any financial stipulation.
And really that culture, I think, is what is so important for operations now. You've got to create that sense of culture that people want to get there. So even if it is not the most glamorous or not the most high paid, if you are happy to go to work and you've got that ability where you aren't micromanaging the rest of your team and you're giving them the autonomy to do that job, they're going to flourish and they're going to expand.
So this is interesting, Dave, because you're in a very unique position, because a lot of times when a general manager comes in, they don't have the opportunity to really craft the culture. They have to see what's there and then try to steer a ship. But with what the industry has been through, with so much turnover and stuff, it's almost like you have a clean slate to be able to create the culture you'd like to see at the property, right?
100%. And that's what I've told new people coming in. We've recently brought in a new director of sales. We've recently brought in a new director of finance. We've recently bring in a new director of engineering. And through all those conversations, everything I've said is we have the opportunity here to create the environment and the culture that we want, because it is a blank slate. Because, when the hotel reopened, it was an entirely new management team. There's certain cultures and our standards and procedures that we probably should have been doing. We weren't to start, just due to lack of staffing, due to just a number of different reasons that every other hotel in the world is dealing with. But as things come back, we have that opportunity to create the vision that we want. And I think that's an exciting thing. That's where you can come in and tell a story, for, your career, and saying, if I'm a director of finance, for example, I came in and I created this culture financially, and here are the results. And it was all me that did it, or, it was heavily driven by me. So there's a lot of really neat opportunity, which you said, Glenn, unless you're doing a new build or a new open, you don't really get that opportunity too much.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to look at it. Suzanne, you were going to say something, I think.
No, that there's always silver linings, right? So the pandemic, a lot of different places closed, and so a lot of people moved and transitioned. And so in some instances, when you're bringing folks back, this is that opportunity to say, okay, we're going to put on a new pair of sunglasses right now, and we're going to wear our rose tints, and we're going to try and advance this to the level that we want to take it to. So it's great that you have that opportunity.
And I would say, going back to the original question of what would we tell a newbie coming in, if you're someone coming into the industry now, or you've only been in it for a few years, this is an opportunity to make that impression, right? Start thinking outside the box. Even if you're a line level team member, look at your position, look at your opportunity, look at your department, and see if there's a way that you might be able to do something more efficiently or more creatively. And then if you're not in a position to make that decision, move it up the chain. Talk to your superiors and say, hey, this might be a cool idea for us to try. Hopefully you have the leadership team that is open to accepting that suggestion. And if you don't, then maybe you should look somewhere else. But this is a great opportunity to make your mark on the industry in whatever position you're in.
Yeah, really great point. So you're trying to make your mark as well, Dave, because you're the GM now, but we all always have somebody that we have to report to, no matter who it is. So what's it like reinventing that relationship with the owners of the building that you're reporting to every day? How are you maneuvering that? What are the issues they're most concerned with? And how do you work as that in between to make sure that both sides are satisfied?
Well, I mean, obviously the number one concern for ownerships across the board, I'm sure, still is financials, right? Even if you're a hotel that is doing really well, you're still climbing out of a pretty big hole. There's still mortgage payments that might be backed up. There's still tax payments you're going to have, and all these various things. And of course, we're in New York City, right? It's not cheap. The labor is not cheap. The space is not cheap. So there's definitely the financial considerations there. I'm very fortunate. Again, I have, really great ownership that allows me to be myself, and we have a very direct line of communication. I talk to them, if not every day, definitely every other day. They're not, a REIT investment firm or an institutional investor where it's all about the bottom line. This ownership group, they really want to make the property stand out from a service standpoint, from a quality standpoint, and they're not afraid to do what's necessary to make that happen. So in that regard, I'm very lucky and very fortunate. But yeah, I mean, sure, there's opportunity for growth, and obviously the corporate management team has their own brand standards and certain metrics that need to get hit, and it's just kind of balancing the both, the ownership's vision with the corporate vision and making sure everything is aligned. And my job, truthfully, and any GM's job, is to be the middleman of that. And it's just being able to say, okay, what makes sense? What makes sense from both sides? Does this make sense for the overall operation? Because at the end of the day, everyone's on the same team. Everyone has the same goal in mind.
Right. But they all have very distinct points of view, and you kind of have to unify that vision to get all the stakeholders involved.
Well, and that's where you have to, that's where you have to do the legwork, right? And if you're looking at potentially a financial implication, right? So what's the intrinsic value of that? Doing the math and making sure that makes sense financially. And then if you think it makes sense and maybe ownership doesn't, or if you think it makes sense and maybe corporate doesn't, it's proving your point of why it does or doesn't. Maybe something doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Again, I'm very fortunate that I have ownership that's very open to listening to these suggestions and is very open to hearing if it makes financial sense. And if it does, they'll take the shot. Again, other ownership groups may not be the same. I know in the back we're talking about Reits. So Suzanne, I'll let you explain what a REIT is, but basically it's a potential type of ownership. Go ahead.
It's a real estate investment trust. And so it's a conglomerate in most instances of investors. And there are companies that are REITs that specialize in hotels. I worked as a general manager for a REIT at one time, and they only had 2 hotels, and they had a portfolio of other assets that they had. But then they didn't really quite understand the hotel side of what we were doing. And so there is less one-on-one communication or owner involvement that way, to the point that you have that ability, Dave. And that does, in some of my experiences, it does make a difference in advancing and really also giving the opportunity to the employees. Doesn't mean they're all that way, but just understanding those differences.
Yeah, the ownership goals are definitely different depending on who the owner is. There's some people, especially in New York City over the last few years, right? They're coming in, they're buying the building, they're taking over the hotel, they want to turn it profitable, and they want to flip it within 5 years, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's just their ownership mindset. And as a leader, you have to understand that. And your job, whether you agree with it or not, is to drive those goals and make it successful in whatever that vision is.
Right.
And I think that also goes back to the culture decision too, because if that's what the goal of the owner is, and that's not the way in which you operate, that can also be a level of frustration of you trying to do what your job is, but everything might be much more financially driven and not creating that sense of culture. So it's okay to explore and find the opportunity that's going to be right and best for you to stick with the industry and be excited about it. Because there are, as Dylan just pointed out, and I'll put this back up again, the opportunities are boundless within this industry. I just came off of having and hosting an advisory board meeting here at Indian River State College with our hospitality and culinary program. And we've got some amazing industry partners that have come in, and they too are excited, but they're starting to see what I've been saying for a while. This is a long-term relationship. This is building a pipeline together so that we can get more people involved and create this culture that we have so many opportunities in.
Yeah, that's for sure. Sorry, go ahead, Dave. Then I want to get to this statement that Kevin Brown has.
Yeah, I was going to say, to your point, Suzanne, Anthony talks about that a lot, right? If you're not fitting into that culture, whatever the owner division is, then you're going to have to move out because it's either going to be you or them. And 10 times out of 10, the GM's going to lose that battle, against ownership. So, no, it's true. It's very true. And then to the point about growth, I mean, listen, the hospitality industry is not going anywhere. It's only going to get bigger and better, and people are not going to stop traveling. So you want to talk about job security, you want to talk about opportunity. You get in now, there's so much opportunity to grow because, again, as we've talked about for the last 2 years, the industry is missing talent. It's starved for talent. So if you can come in and do what we talked about at the top of the show, work hard, prove yourself, show an interest, and then show you can handle it, you can make moves within 2, 3, 4 years that you probably couldn't make previously. That would take 10, 15 years.
So to that point, Dave, for your perspective, you went back in terms of being a revenue manager because that was a skill set you had extensive knowledge on and a comfort level. Did you have a goal of being a general manager? And if you did, what was the long-term goal strategy for you to get to that point?
So it's funny, and Suzanne, you probably can relate to this. The industry is ripe with opportunity in the sense that you can do anything in this industry, right? You can do sales, you can do revenue, you can do ops, you can do legal, social media campaigns, anything. And my career goals have changed over the course of my career, as we've come along here, right? So when I got into the industry originally, yes, the goal when I was in operations was eventually to move up into a GM and then a corporate regional ops role and all that good stuff. And then I got a taste of revenue management, and I really enjoyed kind of the challenge and the puzzle behind that. And that was interesting. Plus, I enjoyed the idea of, hey, revenue management is 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Then I actually got the job and I realized, oh, no, it's not. But, but at the time you're like, well, the hours are better and the pay looks pretty good and it's a fun opportunity. So that's where I kind of pivoted into more moving from operations back into the revenue management idea.
Maybe like a 7 to 3.
Right.
Yeah, especially again, you're in New York. If
I love 7 to 3.
It's a 7-day-a-week job anyway. But either way, so point being, that's when I pivoted into revenue management full time, and I was going to be full head-on career revenue management. So I did the work to get into RM, and then I got into RM and I really enjoyed it and it was fun, but there was a piece missing, right? I'm a talker, as you and Glenn know. I'm a talker. I like to talk. I talk way too much. Pretty much this answer is getting long-winded as it is.
We noticed.
So I missed that interpersonal interaction that I got at the front office. So my career pivoted again. And I was like, okay, well, I have the ops experience. I have the revenue management experience, maybe executive level operations where I really want to be, where I can have a chance to do all of it. And then my GM quit and they said, you get the job now. And I didn't really have a choice to say yes or no. So I got the taste of it on the spot, but it's been great because I'm able to, again, dabble in revenue management and still have the conversations and the puzzle pieces that I need to put together, but also get to interact with people and have those interpersonal relationships. So my career goal has pivoted several times over the course of my career.
Yeah, Mike is right. What a great example. Let's just read that to the people who are listening here. What a great example Dave has been for the industry and how a career can be fast-tracked. Then I agree with Mike's comment. That was tough to type. I don't even know how I was able to get those words out of my mouth either.
So to your point, and actually probably even more so to Anthony's point, Anthony has said in past that we've got people that are advancing by not necessarily their own desire, right? You kind of went from revenue management, whether it be an AGM, into a GM role. And so giving those individuals the support that they need to be confident and do their job extraordinarily well. Is there something that you feel that you might be missing or lacking or could be enhanced to make you feel even more comfortable or accelerate further than what you are at now?
Honestly, no. I think, and again, this is given my current circumstance, right? I have a great ownership team and a great company that I work for that's given me the flexibility to learn.
Great.
They have the support there that if I need to make a call or a text, I can do that, right? I have a bi-weekly call with my regional leader who we go over some things and I can ask questions, but it's not like he's texting me or calling me every minute. What's going on? What are you doing? Right. You have to do it this way. Do it this way. You know, they're giving me the opportunity to make mistakes and learn. That was one of the first things I was told. You know, don't be afraid to make mistakes because that's how you're going to grow from them. So I think, again, being in this current environment has really helped me in that regard. If I was in a different environment, that answer probably is different.
It would be. And you've got supportive owners that understand the business, and that honestly will make it a world of difference. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you guys about this great point that Kevin says, and I do think it's a larger issue in society. Yeah, he's just going into this comment based on something Dylan said about being in the room is a great first step, which it is because you can really start to learn things you didn't even know exist. But Kevin here thinks hoteliers in leadership positions need to expose themselves to the day-to-day of their team so much more so they can identify the roots of problems and needs rather than solve for symptoms. I mean, we see that in larger society on a daily basis. And I think that whole idea of Six Sigma and stuff is about going back to the root cause of things. So Dave, and I'd love to hear from you, but first, Suzanne, what are you thinking about at the academic level with teaching kids how to have actual critical thinking and allow them to understand root problems instead of symptomatic causes?
Well, first we have to get the hospitality kids interested into the classes so that the numbers rise. That is problem number one, which collectively we can work on that. However, I think when you have opportunities for projects that get them to think out of the basic blocks and sometimes I do a lot more creative components. Like in my marketing class, I had them do a feasibility study about taking a location or a property and would a hotel function and survive and what would need to be changed or adapt to be competitive in the marketplace. My students loved it and enjoyed it. Other ways that you can collaborate with industry, bring it to real world examples, and even honestly, our podcast. This is another opportunity where we listen. We have great guest speakers. And so many times we ask a question and we give the answer, but here's an opportunity. Pause the video for a moment and let our students think about, well, what would the answer be before that person actually gives it? And then you hear from an industry person, and then you can continue to have that recap and take it a step further.
Right, good.
I mean, listen, you know, to that point, growth only comes when you challenge yourself mentally. You know, and that's what I'm learning right now. And I've learned through all my positions. If you don't have the opportunity to try new things and find new ways to find solutions, you're never going to be able to grow. If someone's over your head telling you the answer, you just become a robot. Then you're just a button pusher.
That's right.
You know, and that's what I'm trying to drill into the team now is like, you know, yeah, I can give you the answer. I know the answer. I know the right solution, but I'm not going to tell it to you because I want you to think about it, creatively think about it, critically think, and come to your own solution. And then you might find a better way. You know, it's very possible you're going to think of a different solution that's actually going to be better than the one that I thought about. And I think that's a problem in itself, is that given the current instant gratification culture, people just want the answer a lot of times.
That's right.
They don't want to have to think about it. They just want the answer and move on because, listen, the answers are typically at our fingertips.
Right.
But if you're really going to get into that critical thinking space, it's not as cut and dry as just Googling something.
No, it really is not, because you have to understand, I think, all of the fundamentals that go into why things became the way that they are. I'm a big proponent in breaking the rules, but you have to understand what the rules are and why they're there in the first place in order to break them in a creative way.
So here's a good example of, you know, Dave, really your answer is at the fingertips, right? We know that night audit is a very automated role. You're pushing a couple buttons. Typically we have a checklist. My theory was always, as a GM, I want my checklist detailed enough so that if a monkey showed up for work today, they could just push the buttons and the night audit would actually run. We'd be okay.
Right. Are you talking about actual night audit or Friday night audit? Because it sounds like a scary description of that.
Listen, night auditors everywhere are much more trained and sophisticated than anybody on a Friday night.
All right, kids, just checking. All right, thank you.
Totally different. That's woohoo, my goodness. But what I like to do when I teach a lodging operations class, and I am going to admit that I am not the most liked professor at that moment in time, but I do a manual night audit that they have to do as a project assignment, because I want you to understand where are the numbers coming from. How do you do the room and tax? How are you balancing? How are you putting your reports into line? And then the bigger piece at the end that actually has more accounting value to it, if you will, is the fact that there's a reflection. Well, what did you learn? And 9 out of the 10 times the students are like, wow, I didn't realize the amount of detail and attention that you had to pay to things. And at the end of the semester, I still have grumbled students, but I will tell you that most times, and it's not necessarily that year, it's 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, I had a student who was in New Orleans. Well, what do they have there? Hurricanes, power outages. And so in teaching that as a skill and understanding, she was the only person on her property in New Orleans that was able to help run the hotel manually. Right. And when all was said and done, reached back to me and was like, thank goodness you made us do that, because I wouldn't have been able to do it. And she's like, I was a total rock star. So
and that's how you grow, right? And that's the exact example of, you asked about how newbies can move up quickly. That's it right there. Like, that's it right there.
I didn't know how to do it my first time. I had somebody deleted the market segmentation report. That would be the report that tells you what markets people are coming from, business or corporate, and what kinds of corporate, you know, really breaking that segment down to how many room nights we had. And it had only happened in February, but I will tell you, we lost the entire year. Everything got reset back to 0. Wow. And then we came to find out we didn't have the proper data cartridges to do the backups the previous night. And I had to go back 3 days in history and literally recreate everything. I worked 3 days straight. And that wasn't even a power outage. And so I try and infuse that into, you don't know if it'll be a power outage or something weather related, but you've got to understand where all these pieces come to so that you can be successful. Because we, you know, just like calculators in school, right? We become reliant on that and then we don't think about it.
Right.
So yes.
And that right there is why I hit Control S after I write every sentence.
Every word.
Yeah.
Every single word. There's somebody out there right now that's watching the show that actually just had a Control S failure. Yeah, right. So I know she's listening. So sorry for you. But, you know, to that point, Suzanne, you know, that goes into another thing that I try to tell everybody, and I try to tell myself, especially with revenue management, right? There's one question you have to ask yourself. And if you can't answer that question, you have to go deeper. And the question is why? Why is something happening, right? So in revenue management, for the example, you know, you might be pacing ahead or behind. Why is it happening? Well, it's because we're up in room nights. Okay, why? Well, negotiated business is up. Well, why? Well, this account is up. Well, why? Then because they, you know, they just removed their office to this area. You know, to your point, why do we have to do all this night audit manually? Well, that's the answer is why. Why are we doing this? That answers the question of why.
And then the next question is, so what? So if
well,
you
yeah,
don't
then so what? What are we doing about it? Right.
Exactly.
So, but if you don't understand that why, and again, you're just going through the motions and not understanding why you're doing something, then it's really just a very robotic scenario. We don't really, it can, anybody can really do that. But if you understand it, that's where it makes the impact.
That sums up the midlife crisis I'm going through right now. Beautiful.
Why?
So what about it?
Trying to understand the why. Excellent. So, was there anything else that anybody wants to say over here? Nope.
Yes, I want to go back to a comment a little bit earlier. We were talking about craps, and our good friend Stephanie said, "Being the shooter is no fun when you don't know what you're doing." That is a total lie. If you get into the environment, all you have to do is just throw a pair of dice.
Yeah.
The table will tell you what's happening.
Yeah.
And if you did really well, you're going to be the most famous and popular person at the table.
Right.
And if you don't, you'll know that very quickly.
Easy enough. If the puck is white and says on, you want to roll that number. If that, and do not roll a 7. That's all you got to know.
That's all you got to know. But unfortunately, Stephanie didn't know that. And I was trying to get her to shoot for me because I didn't want to shoot for myself, and she didn't shoot for me. And then we lost. So I blame all of that on you.
Oh, yeah. That's totally her fault. I agree.
Next time I'm going to the casino with Pegatini. She'll have more fun.
Oh.
That's too funny. If you don't do well, everyone hates you. No thanks.
That's really the word of life, right? If you don't do well in life, everyone's going to hate you anyway. So at the very least, have some fun while you're doing it.
That's right. Craps is definitely a metaphor for life.
Craps is a metaphor for life, 100%. You could tell you I spend too much time in Atlantic City.
That's why you always got to put your money on the pass line, right? Yeah,
absolutely. That's the first bet. Plus, you put the odds down after the come out. Listen, we're going down there in August, Glenn. We're going to shoot together. It's fine.
We are. I'm definitely going to play craps again. I haven't done it since pre-pandemic. I think I am due. But Dave, I hope we have a fun table. I gotta get in the right spot though, because I have to be like a stick man or a woman's
blurry.
Fuzzy man.
It's got to be to my left because I gotta get there with the right hand and roll it. I can't stand when you're facing the other way and it's all convoluted and stuff like that.
So, this is going into the backside of No Vacancy Live and Friday Night Audit and all the little details that come to any little thing that we do.
Yeah, I've thought I've thought through things too much, and I have way too many rules. All right, hold on 1 second. We got to bring up Mike's comment there.
Dave, has the fact that you put ketchup on your hot dogs slowed down your career because people think you're a toddler asking for a friend? Well, actually, come here. Actually, it's only enhanced me because I have an actual toddler. Are
we going to get a Fox appearance? There he is. Oh. Look at that one. You got a haircut.
He got a haircut. We're not happy with it. A little too short. The person made it way too short. But we're making the best of it. It's going to go back fast.
Yep.
But he's a guy who loves hot dogs and ketchup in his hot dogs as well. So my career has only been enhanced by being able to go to the street carts in New York City.
Dave, I didn't think you were going to destroy the next generation that quick. I thought it would take a number more years.
Listen, ketchup on hot dogs is a delicacy. I think that we should I'm going to start a restaurant on 42nd Street, just solely based.
I thought it was a delicacy, but what are you gonna do over there?
I'm going to be as famous as Cat's Deli with my ketchup hot dogs.
I think it's time to get out of here. We got stuff to do. Hi there, Fox. Good to see you. Dave, anything else that you want to say before we wrap this bad boy up today?
No, this was fun. This is a great time. I'm sorry that the guest unfortunately couldn't make it, but listen, it's good that she wasn't able to make it because she's doing business. So good for her.
Yep.
And it allowed us to have some fun together.
It sure did. Any final words from you, Suzanne?
I am happy that you had a chance to join us today. Thank you. And I hope you don't get sick. Take your vitamins and rest up.
I'm just waiting probably for Friday. You're going to see me on the audit.
That's going to be awesome.
Am I going to have to fill in? Do I need to clear my schedule for that too?
Oh yeah, you should. Yeah.
Just in case.
And you're welcome anytime, Suzanne, to just pop on and cause trouble. Just so you know.
You never know. I might do that.
Official there. Yeah, you sure can. All right, everybody. Talk about causing trouble. Why don't you cause yourself some trouble? If you're listening to an audio podcast, why not take a look at our beautiful faces over there? Watch us on video. And if you're watching on video, well, go to your favorite place to download podcasts. Download No Vacancy Live there. Get this show as well as the Friday Night Audit Show, No Vacancy News Today when we put that out, and the soon-to-return Hotel Tech Podcast, which will have a better name than that, but it will feature hotels and technology and be a podcast. So I'm just sticking with the facts over there. All right, everybody, thanks so much for being here. And remember, you've got one life, so blaze on, and
Be kind to yourself.
see y'all tomorrow with Anthony.